Hi all, I thought we could have a look at another exciting game of Mikhail Tal. This was 1 year before he became world chess champion, actually, in his hometown Riga. So this is Mikhail Tal against Svein Johannessen in Riga 1959. d4 from Tal. Yes, he didn't just play e4. We see knight f6, c4, c6, Slav Defense, pretty solid, g6. Now bishop f4, bishop g7, e3. White's playing pretty solidly, as well as black. Bishop e2, c5. White, Tal does not want to perhaps have an isolated queen's pawn. He actually takes here, dissolving the center, and it can lead to a symmetrical pawn structure, which it does here. We've got an entirely symmetrical pawn structure. But is this game going to be dull? Well, it's Tal playing white, and this next move actually looks quite exciting. Knight e5. You might think it's a bit odd because the bishop's loose, isn't it? It's only the knight protecting that. So what's the intention? Knight bd7. What does white play here? If I give you 5 seconds starting from now. Okay. Bishop takes f7 check, and this might not be sound, and we're told actually quite a lot of the time that knight and bishop is not worth giving up for just a rook. But in this particular position, what is it about this particular position which might make this more interesting? Okay, well, it has to be taken really. If the king moved, example, knight takes d7, we're hitting the queen, it has to be taken. Knight takes f7, king takes. The king is brought out a little bit across this diagonal, and in fact now we have the check. So the king can't go back, can't go into hiding that easily. It's king f8 is played here. For a moment, let's actually have a look at some under defense. I'm just going to add a kapitsa here. e6. Actually, this e6 might not be that good. Knight b5, and then we've got knight d6 check, as well as rook here. This is dangerous for black. This is actually quite dangerous. Even this position, even if the queens come off, this position, there's an enduring amount of pressure here. Yeah, this is a little bit uncomfortable, and also a7's dropping. As an example, say black played a less than optimal move. There's a certain amount of pressure in the position. Yeah, engines even have this as slightly better for white. So anyway, e6 wasn't played. We have king f8, rook ac1, wanting to harass the queen with knight b5 anyway. With that rook still on a8, knight c7 is a concern. a6 to stop knight b5, it seems mainly. Rook fd1. Notice how white's rooks are very coordinated here and natural looking. And knight d5 is actually threatened now. Queen gets out of the firing line. Queen c4. And here, yeah, I mean, white's got a lot of pressure. White actually might be technically even better in this position. Queen f5. h3. Just a quiet little move. Just saying, okay, what are you doing? How are you untangling? It's very difficult to develop here for black. It's kind of paralyzed on the queen side. It's not really even about the king here. It's about this lack of development. Black played knight e8. Just before we look at knight e8, I mean, what if b5? Queen c6. Look at this, hitting the rook. And then we just take here. It's very uncomfortable. Queen c6. This rook's a bit of a liability actually in this position. So we see knight e8. Knight d5, and now the threat is actually queen b4 actually, to put more pressure on e7, and we see queen e6, which seems quite a good defensive idea. Queen b4 anyway, and you have to note here that if it wasn't for this knight covering d6, the possibility of knight takes e7 exists for bishop d6. We see b5. This might be a mistake. It actually has a weakness of the last move as well. with it, which is used immediately by Mikhail Tal. It's difficult to suggest very good moves here for black. In fact, probably one of the best might be h6, but even here, white is very comfortably placed after, say, bishop a2. What is actually black doing in this position? Example here, check, or even queen b5. There's just an amount of pressure on the queen side making it difficult for black. It's just very, very annoying. So anyway, b5, trying to liberate these pieces. But there's a killer blow played here. Can you see what white plays? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video starting from now. So white to play. It has a weakness. It's not guarding c6, is it? And that's exactly what is used. That's exactly the resource used, basically the implied resource of the last move. Weaken c6, go into c6. Now, queen f7 was played. If queen takes, then we have check. Actually, let's turn this off. Check. And the knight can't move because we lose the queen there. Well, black would lose the queen. Let's put us on the winning side when I say we. Just for fun. Knight e7 check here is winning the queen. We win the queen. So that's no good. The rook can't be taken here. So black's getting into deeper trouble. Queen f7. And now, remember I mentioned about this key defensive square? We see knight c7 forking that key defender with the rook. Knight takes c7 is played. Rook takes c7. And there's an immediate threat now of queen e4. Because if the rook moved here, it's in the firing line of the bishop. For example, rook takes d7, then bishop takes b8. So that has to be addressed, and it is addressed with queen e6. But now, another forcing move, rook dc1, threatening not just to take the bishop, but also this is nasty. Just going into c6 first might even be better. Getting the queen back to f7, and that's totally end of game. Black here tries to defend the situation with knight b6, and it looks as though, hold on a sec, isn't rook c6 possible here, forking queen and knight? Let's just check this possibility here. I believe this should be good as well, actually. If knight d5 is the only move to counterattack, rook takes, knight takes. This is also very, very good for white, but white plays the most crushing move in this position. It's not this, which is good. It is very good, but there's another move which I kind of highlighted before, a resource I kind of highlighted before. Can you remember? If I give you 5 seconds, what does white play here? A crushing, forcing move. So 5 seconds starting from now. Yep, rook takes e7. Yeah, we're getting bishop d6 if the queen took. Knight d5 is played here. But now, rook takes e6 check, and white is winning back at least some material after bishop d6 check. Black resigned. If king g8, I think we can just take the knight. Let's have a look just finally at this final position. If king g8, I think taking the knight is good as well. Or is it? No. No. That's why I want to check these things. The bishop's hitting the rook. We've got to play the check first, then the check. So that rook is safeguarded. Then we take the knight. Taking the knight would be fine in this position, but even stronger if we're looking for total accuracy. So this is totally winning. White's just the exchange up, and also 2 pawns up. But even more clinically accurate is just doubling on the 7th first. And what does black do? If bishop f8, rook e8, threatening mate, bishop b7, take here, here, and we're winning f8. It's even more significant than taking the knight. But it's all winning by this stage. Yeah, this is just hopeless. Yeah, so the key thing is, with the rook hanging, got to get the rook protected first. Then it can be protected by the bishop, which is going to take the knight. So that's the cute thing about this, actually. And in fact, if king f7, we have that same idea. We play the check first, and then we can either we can just take the knight here. That's pretty strong. Or go into that other line, but this is sufficient anyway. So this game shows actually that fundamental idea we have about giving up a knight and bishop for rook. It really just depends on the position, and that's the beauty of chess. Any generalizations we might be aware of, it really, unless they're like legal, like completely non-controversial, they have to be position sensitive. So here the knight and bishop gave great practical chances to white. It might not have been entirely sound from an engine point of view, which is why it's really good in this era to look at Mikhail Tal games. Actually, I think this is the best time perhaps to look at Mikhail Tal games. It reminds us that chess is a battle, you know, between people. And okay, there might be better defenses available, but it was a tricky position, and it was easier for white. White had all the well-coordinated pieces. Black's queen side was congested. It was very, very tricky. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that one. Comments, questions, likes appreciated. Thanks very much.